Hi, I'm John from Just Whisky. If you like today's show, please give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe, and consider becoming a Patreon with the link in the description below. And thank you to the Patreons that I do have. Today's episode is just news. So there'll be no drinking today, just news, and it'll be a quick news update, which I do occasionally when I find newsworthy things of interest to myself, which I like to share with you. We always have to get Ardbeg out of the way. So Ardbeg, Barbecue, which I've talked about before, that should be hitting the shelves fairly soon, I believe. And I believe the retail is going to be well south of $100. Okay, so it's still going to be a non-age stated. I don't know if that's a bargain, but in Ardbeg special releases, it seems to be better priced than some of the previous limited releases. Next, Benromach should be releasing a limited edition contrast series, which is going to be called the Air Dried Oak, which I'm really looking forward to. It's going to be a non-chill filtered, 46% ABV. It was distilled in 2012, bottled in 2023, and it does have a 10-year age statement on the bottle. And it's going to be called Limited Edition Virgin Oak Air Dried. And again, in the Contrast series. And it's supposed to also be first fill casks, which that also says that in the label. I have no idea what that's going to retail for, but it sounds very intriguing. Then next up is sometime in the near future, Laphroaig is going to be releasing the what they call Oak Select. So they already have Select. What's interesting about this is it's going to come in at 40% ABV, okay? And what they're trying to accomplish, I guess, their labels say, quote, our most laid-back expression. And then on the label also, it's going to say sweet, subtle smoke to create a more mellow, balanced style. So that does sound intriguing. I think it's going to be a nice entry level. Someone just wants to get their feet wet with peat and smoke. But it's likely going to be chill filtered, possibly colored, probably colored, and at 40% ABV. But anyway, I found it interesting. And then Bruichladdich is releasing in their third release of their project series. It's a Bruichladdich rye, okay? And the motivation for them was rye, I guess, is a very beneficial rotating crop. So to be beneficial to the environment, they've coordinated with a farmer or some farmers to grow some rye to kind of give the earth a break from all the heavily fertilized that they need to do for just growing barley all the time. So that is they're looking into the future for long-term growth. So it's called the Bruichladdich Regeneration Project, and again, this is their third release in that line. It's going to come in at 50%, like everything that they do. This is a limited edition of 1,800 bottles. I believe available only on their website, and I believe there's a limit of 2 bottles. And it's going to retail on their Bruichladdich website for £125. Okay, and the mash bill on it is 55% rye and 45% malted barley. So it sounds like a nice blend there. I think it's going to be hard to find. It'd be something I would love to try, but I can't justify living here in the States to pay the shipping. That's going to be exorbitant. And then on just a couple of complete side notes has nothing to do with new releases, but I just been saving this in the back of my mind for a little bit. Just wanted to share. Recently, a friend came over and he had two old bottles, but one of the old bottles was he's not sure the vintage, but it was an old Johnny Walker 12-year-old black label, probably from the 1960s or 70s. I'm guessing probably the 1970s. The label on the bottle says 4/5 of a quart, and it comes in at 86.8 proof, which is 43.4 ABV. And I'll tell you, it was very enjoyable. You hear the Ralphie talk about, the yesteryears and the malts of yesteryears, but that is a good example. I was very beyond pleasantly surprised and mildly impressed by the quality and the delivery of it. And then also, too, my friend shared a Cutty Sock bottle of this probably around the same time frame, 60s, 70s. And that one there, on the nose, it kind of had turned a little bit. It had more like that furniture polish, kind of a paint thinner nose to it, but the palate was still good. Enjoyable, actually. But the Johnny Walker 12-year-old from the 70s, the 3/4 of a quart, I'll tell you, the nose and the palate were very, very impressive. Okay, then something, I've talked about David Broom, right? And so this is his newest book, right? A Sense of Place, which I've read, and I've talked about previously, so you can check that out. And I've also talked about his other book, one of his other books, David Broom, right? So this one's called The World Atlas of Whisky. This book was published in 2014, so it's 9 years old, okay? I've been told they're going to do a reprinting, a new edition of it to kind of update it. But even from 2014, I'll tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed this book, and it's very relevant. And it's something that I thought was very interesting that I just want to share. And I know we're not supposed to read copyrighted material. Hey, but what the hell? I'm a small channel, and I'm trying to plug his books here, so it's I'm not trying to benefit from it myself. I'm just trying to share what I read here, which I thought was very interesting. And it's about Westland American single malt in Seattle, Washington. And I'm just going to read this because it's very interesting and very relevant what's going on in the American single malt. Of course, Jack Daniels has released American single malt. Now, I'm no expert in American single malts. Okay, I'm more familiar with Scotch, and I've never visited Scotland, although I've been to Middleton Distillery in Ireland, and I've been to many brewery distilleries, but American single malt, my understanding, has to be matured in oak casks, but it makes no mention of whether they're used or virgin oak, okay? And 100% malted barley, same as Scotland, and distilled in one location, okay? And my understanding for the qualifications for American single malt is that it has to be matured for a minimum of 2 years, unlike Scotland, which is a minimum of 3 years. But the story of Westland, okay, very interesting. Okay, so Lamb linked up with a high school friend, Matt Hoffman, who had by then studied distilling in Scotland's Heriot-Watt University and was planning to stay in the country to seek employment. I thought, here in Washington State, we have 2 world-class barley regions, abundant water, and a climate unique in North America. Everything is here to allow us to make a style of whiskey we want to make, okay? The pair spent 8 months traveling the world, visiting 130 distilleries, honing the idea of a fusion between Scottish tradition, American aging, and Japanese whiskey-making philosophy. This is what I found the most interesting. Quote, "The Scots told us we'd screw it up as barley doesn't have the body and complexity to stand up to over-oaking." Their solution was tangential. Rather than taking the Scottish approach of once-used casks, they beefed up the spirit with different roasts of malt so it could cope with the full-blown intensity of new oak. The mash bill now utilizes pale, Munich, extra special, toasted, pale, chocolate, and brown malts. A peated variant has recently been added. Refill casks are also being used because the vision is nothing if not long-term. The whiskey turns the corner after 4 or 5 years, says Lamb, but not all of this whiskey is coming out that young. We're laying down for 40 years. Okay, so they're based in downtown Seattle, and their goal is to put Washington State on the map as a prime place for American single malt. The distillery might be medium-sized in Scottish terms, but it's sizable in American ones. To make this work, we need to make 20,000 cases of a year. So I found that very interesting, and I have not tried a Westland single malt, and they have a few different core offerings, and one of them is the flagship. And I recently heard an interview with the master distiller, and he said the newer version of the flagship he's found to be his best work yet. So I look forward to trying that at some point, but I just thought I'd share that about the Scottish philosophy and the refill used compared to virgin oak. Anyway, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. And hats off to you all. And remember, folks, it's just news.